We're in Padua, the University of Padua, and in the 16th century, this is where you came if you were a top-flight student. And from all over Europe, they came here to study and work with the leading scientists and medical teachers of the age. And you can see they've left their crests up here. You can see people from Germany, from England, from Spain, from Bohemia. And one person in particular is of real interest to us. A young Englishman who came here in the early 17th century. Here he is, Wiiliam Harvey, Anglus. Wiiliam Harvey of England.
Wiiliam Harvey was the product of the greatest education Europe could offer. He had left his father's estate in Folkestone to study in Cambridge and then at Padua. In 1602 he returned to England to join the newly formed Royal College of Physicians. An angry young man, he was prone to fits of temper when his ideas were ignored, drawing his dagger whenever offended. But it was his prowess with the blade that earned him the role of physician to King Charles I.
Anatomists for centuries before had always listed the reasons for doing anatomy. The medical reason for doing anatomy was always low on the list. Top of the list was either the religious reason, showing the handiwork of God in the body, or a philosophical reason, understanding the body as a natural object. Harvey was concerned much more with the plumbing of the body.
The dominant medical treatment was based on the idea of relieving pressure from the sick body by drawing blood, bloodletting.
The common one to do was to use this vein in the middle of your arm, take a lancet, stick a lancet in the vein, have a bowl underneath. Some records, patient will be bled in a serious illness every day, usually fatally. More often the patient would say, well, you know, every 6 months I go along to the barber surgeon, I have some bloodlet, I feel much better for it. Like today, people going along to a health farm.
What quantity would they take off?
They'd take off 6 ounces, 10 ounces. 10 ounces is half a pint.
So if they were bled half a pint every day, there wouldn't be much left by the end of the week?
Absolutely, absolutely true.
The whole premise behind the letting of blood was that it barely moved around the body. It just sloshed around in the veins. And it hadn't dawned on the anatomists that the beating heart might play a role. They dealt only with dead organs. But Harvey was different. He was preoccupied with the living, working systems of the body. The unfortunate son of Viscount Montgomery was Harvey's favourite all-living, all-breathing anatomical showpiece. The young nobleman had smashed his ribs open in a riding accident. The wound had healed, leaving only a thin layer of skin over his heart, which could be seen and even felt to be beating. Harvey hit upon the idea that the heart was in fact a pump. To prove his point, he slit the throats of countless living dogs, snakes and deer and measured how much blood gushed out.
Often enough they got absolutely drenched with blood as they cut the artery of a living dog, you see. And a lot of people were actually convinced by this experience. Forget the philosophy, forget the science. Once you're covered with warm, smelly blood from a dog, you can believe that, you know, it's emerging with a lot of force. You know, it leaps 4 feet and drenches you.
Harvey's thinking ran completely contrary to conventional wisdom. Most physicians clung to another of Galen's whimsical theories, that the heart, like every organ, just consumed the blood that had been made for it by the liver. Harvey now saw its true role, to pump blood around the body in a one-way circulation system of fantastic design.
Other anatomists had observed these strange folds between the chambers of the heart, but it was Harvey that showed that these observations really fitted in beautifully with his theory. That is to say, that the valves would flap open beautifully when the heart contracted, allowing blood to shoot out through the vessel. When the vessel, the chamber's relaxed, the blood tries to rush back into the heart, the three valves flop back, flop, flop, flop. Look at that. The orifice is closed. Beautiful mechanism. Show that to any engineer and he'll be amazed.
Harvey's experiments for the king proved the human body was a series of working systems, and if they could be isolated, then they could be cured when they went wrong. The door for effective medical treatment based on clinical observation rather than bogus theory had at last been opened. The physicians were under threat.
It was seen as a disaster for medical practice because of things like bloodletting. It destroyed the theoretical basis of medicine. It destroyed the actual practice of bloodletting. And so all the professional doctors were actually horrified. They'd been doing their stuff based on Galen's theory for, their whole working lives. They'd been doing it collectively for 1,500 years. And here suddenly the whole basis of it was destroyed.
The old Greek and Roman ideas of humours and spirits had finally been consigned to the scrap heap. But Harvey, himself a devout Christian, had unwittingly let a much larger cat out of the bag that threatened to undermine the very basis of Christianity. His discovery showed that man was nothing more than a machine, a mechanism of pumps and valves, cogs and levers.
The essential notion of mechanism in that kind of way is that there is no purpose in the machine. Right? The religious view of the body says God made this rationally for a purpose, either in his image or as his temple. The mechanists say there is actually no purpose in the body. Sure, it may have been designed by God originally, but there's no actual purpose innate there. The body is not acting in order to do something. It acts simply by virtue of its mechanism, its mechanical contrivance.
For over